Hi, folks. This is Don Meisner with the North Country Fishing Report. One of the things we've talked about a lot in the past, but I think it really warrants talking about this week, and that is fishing lines. Because in the winter, when the water gets cold, when there's ice above, but whenever the water gets colder, line reacts differently. And different lines have different properties. And those lines that we may enjoy using the most in the summertime may not work as well in the winter. Braided line in particular holds more water. It absorbs more water than monofilament or fluorocarbon. And so it may not be the best choice in fishing cold water. Number one, it's going to tangle very easily. It's going to foul your guides with ice. And knots in each of the line don't react the same in cold as they do when it's warm. Probably the best line of all to use is fluorocarbon. Doesn't matter whether it's on a bait casting reel or on your spinning reel. And here's the reason why. Number one, it doesn't transmit as much water. But second of all, it stays strong in cold water. You can't see it as much as you can other lines. It sinks down, and in colder water, you're not fishing on the surface. You're trying to get down where those fish are. So I think these are things that I wanted to pass on. Here's a couple other things. There's sprays that you can spray on your line to make it more manageable in extreme cold conditions. Most of them contain lithium, and you can go online and you can find some of these. You can find some of these fishing lines and how to use them. The second thing that I think is really important is, okay, let's say we're going to use whatever line we have. How can we best keep our guides from freezing? Because I remember as a kid, I spent more time sucking out the ice from my fishing guides than I did of casting and catching fish when it got cold, or in the spring when fishing season opened April 1st. My buddy Rocky, who's a guide on the Salmon River down in Pulaski, told me that what he uses is chapstick. He says there's a lot of other salves and so forth that you can put on your guides, but he uses chapstick, and he just rubs that on each of the guides, and it helps keep them from freezing up. The other thing that Rocky did tell me, and I think it's important, and it's really a neat tip, is when he's fishing any of these streams. Now, most of us aren't going to be fishing streams in the winter, but if we did get down to the Salmon River or the tributaries or so forth, or for the beginning of season, he says a fly rod works the best in these streams. And one of the reasons that it does is that your fly line, first of all, isn't like using braid or mono or anything else. And it puts less water on the guides. But also, with a fly rod, if you can learn how to roll cast, and let me tell you what a roll cast is. You have a certain length of line out. You've cast to where you feel the fish are in a pool. So that's where you want to cast every time, because you got to be where they are. Well, if you keep just that amount of line out and you don't start false casting, where you see fly fishermen whipping the line through the air back and forth, and each time they let a little bit more line out and finally they get the distance that they want to cast to. This is totally different. A roll cast is you pick the whole length of line up with your rod, and you have to master this technique with your wrist. And then after it gets up in the air, you flick your wrist forward, and the whole line shoots out again back to the spot where you had cast before. This isn't that difficult once you learn how to do it. And what it does is it keeps the fly line, going back through your guides. You're not casting out anymore or bringing any more in. You're keeping it the same. And if you roll cast that continually, your guides are going to stay free. That's the biggest hindrance of any kind of winter fishing, is your guides freezing up and your line can't pass through. You can't cast out. You can't reel in. You can't do any of it. But if you can keep your guides free of ice, and this is one of the ways to do it, you'll be able to get a lot more time in fishing. Until next time, folks, and I hope this helps you, this is Don Meisner with the North Country Fishing Report.